us in the Loud House. One boy, 10 girls, wouldn't trade it for the world. Loud House.
I can be your friend.
I can be your friend.
I can be your friend.
Hello everybody, Loud House Critic here. And today, oh boy, I really got a good special episode for all of you today. A very good special episode. No, in fact, a very exciting special episode for all of you. And that is Friendzy. The 19th episode of Season 3 of The Loud House, but overall, the 120th. Holy Christ. I love this episode so very much as anyone else would love this one rather than hate it. I mean, can't hate it. You just gotta love this episode. And this is really interesting, and I'm gonna explain why. So this episode begins with a freaking fight as usual in the Loud House until the police arrive. And somehow everything just manages to freeze and Lincoln's the only one moving.
You're probably wondering, what did you guys do now? Well, to explain, I have to go back a few days.
Alright, now see, that's a little too far back. Alright, let's move ahead.
To survive.
So Lincoln and his sisters are fighting over the simplest things and they can't even decide what they want. Example, what songs they want to listen to on the radio.
Rock! Capsule! The sports station! West Coast Rap!
Really?
Jesus, Rita, do you have any shame about that you're going to make any one of these kids deaf? Hell, even Pop-Pop would be deaf by now. By that thing.
If you kids can't decide, your father and I will decide for you.
I mistreat you, girl. You sure don't mean no harm.
And the shit still continues of them fighting and bickering for what they want for dinner.
Sardines! Chicken nuggets! Pizza! Banana cream pie!
Jesus, Lynn, not you too.
If you guys can't decide, I'll decide for you. Goulash it is.
Oh, yum. Goulash is really not that bad. My grandparents make that stuff. I can actually enjoy it. And the third bitching and moaning is trying to decide what they want to watch on television.
Time for ARG.
Family Matters.
You mean Vampires of Melancholia?
Home Improvement.
You mean Prison Pageant?
The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
I want to watch the Circus Channel.
Full House. Good God, how many of these things do you have, Rita?
Well, if you kids are going to fight, I'll take the remote. Thank you.
Now we just wait and watch it grow.
I'd rather be watching Married with Children.
You can't have one without the other.
And all this ain't getting them anywhere. With one boy and 10 sisters, that's a lot of fighting. Now, Lincoln wants to watch his television show ARG, which I'm still almost quite not catching on to. But it turns out Lynn is actually watching a game with a friend of hers, Margot.
I know, Lincoln, but let Lynn watch her game today, okay? She has a friend over.
A friend, you say?
Then he got an idea. And
So Lincoln gets a crazy idea about playing the friend card. Yeah, playing the friend card. Let me explain something about this. Now, about the playing the friend card, I'm going to call this the playing the friend card synthesis. Now, friendship is an emotion or a relationship between friends, also known as companionship, fellowship, and a support between allies. However, there's 3 different kinds of friendships there are. There's friendships of utility, which only exist between you and someone who is useful to you in some ways. And there's also friendships of pleasure that exist between you and those whose company you enjoy. And finally, friendships of the good are based on the mutual respect and admiration. All these 3 would be known as friendship of kindness. However, there's worse friendships than this one. And this kind of friendship you don't want to have. Being judgmental, always wanting to come first, got no respect for the person who you're hanging around with, and very lack of money. And you would have them turn against your own family members or your own siblings, like the bad people in the Death Valley of Mexico. Trust me, you do not want to go to a place like that. It's one of the most f***ed up places you ever want to go and visit. And this bad relation with a friendship is also called the murder friendship. Now combine all three of the friendships into the friendship of kindness, the good types, and the murder friendship, the bad types. And you get a complete f***ing disaster. Also, you might want to remember this. You're going to need it later. So Lincoln actually brings his friend Clyde over for everything that he wants, such as his own television show.
Guys, I'm baking cookies. Who wants to lick the beaters?
Even get to lick the egg beater. Gotta admit, that's not such a bad habit after all. Hey, don't judge me. I used to do that as a kid and I still can do that. I'm sure you all do the same thing too. And then they get to play badminton. And they finally get to have what's for dinner. Chicken nuggets.
Chicken nuggets? Bogus, dude!
You got a problem with that?
And these sisters start getting so many more evil ideas once more again. As usual. They're starting to realize what he's up to. And now they're actually having the idea to take him down.
I got this. During guard change, I'll sneak up on him in the shower.
Okay, if I'm planning on taking a shower, I am going to lock the doors, I'm going to hammer and nail them together, and set a steel bear trap next to the doorway. Because I'm afraid that a 6-year-old is going to attack me like Norman Bates. And this is where the fun is really going to get fun. Next day, Clyde and Lincoln are decided to watch the show ARG again, but Lola actually has a friend over, Roxanne. But somehow this one doesn't even work this time. Because Rita says that Lola actually got a friend over and she actually got to the TV first before him and Clyde. Next, we have Sam and Luna. Oh yeah, I bet some of you were expecting that Sam would actually appear in this one. Turns out her and Luna ate all the cookies. And one of my favorite parts is deciding what's for lunch. Turns out Lucy already beat Lincoln to it, having bloody sausages with her friend Haiku.
All right! Yo, yo, woo, woo, woo.
I was real excited to actually see her in this episode. Ever since I first saw her in Dance Dance Revolution. Doesn't get so much better either when him and Clyde decided to go play badminton. And turns out that Lori has Whitney over.
Yay! Fucking well done!
And just as soon as these sisters couldn't be more evil than how they are turning out to be, they start to catch on to Lincoln and get much of his privileges taken away. This becomes quite a shock for Rita and Lynn.
Yikes, that's a lot of kids. You want to hide at the mall for a few hours?
Do I? It'll be quieter and less crowded.
I digress on that one, that the mall's going to be any less noisy. Just as I said, almost couldn't say that things could possibly get any worse. But I think some things are about to get way better for all of you out there. Just strap yourselves in. This was the big hype for everybody. Lincoln knows that his sisters are actually catching on to his backup plan. So now, he actually has a different plan in mind. Lynn and Margot are actually watching the game TV, and Lincoln actually has 2 friends over. He has Clyde and Liam now, giving them the right to watch the television. And Lynn actually invites 3 of her friends over. Now it feels like the sisters are about playing against each other instead of Lincoln. And things are going to get so much crazier when Lenny actually brings 5 friends over. There's Becky, there's Dana, there's Chaz. And that quickly changes when Lori and her 6 friends come by to watch television. Once more again, Lisa actually has 7 friends. There's Darcy and David. Glad to see Darcy again. And then, of course, Lola comes in with her 8 snotty pageant friends to watch prison pageant. And move aside Lola and your prissy little friends, Lucy and her 9 dark friends want to watch Vampires of Melancholy. Hit the road, Lucy, because it looks like Luna and her 10 rock and rolling friends are taking over the stage. And of course,
Happy birthday, nice puppy boy!
Clown!
Luann and her 11 clown friends. There's Giggles from Dance Dance Revolution. And now this is where things are going to start getting worse. Not only do Lincoln and his sisters are starting to fight, so do all their friends.
Hey, I was watching that!
Too bad. No, too bad for you! Give me the remote! I want to watch the sports channel!
Oh boy.
That's just great, Lincoln. Those complete strangers you invited into our home just started a fight.
Jim would never do that. It was probably Lola's pageant group. They looked vicious.
My money's on Lynn's meathead jock friends.
It is a beautiful day to up.
So the Popo shows up. Lincoln and his selfish sister stop fighting, and much all their friends leave.
Wait, Lenny! You don't leave. You live here. Oh, right!
And so the parents arrive home, and the police gives them a $200 ticket for noise violation. And Lincoln explains the whole situation of all the shit that they got into, or at least his sisters put him into. And they would have to use so much of their allowances to pay for the violation ticket. And they must so much learn their lesson the hard way, as usual, from their experience. Instead of fighting for their own privileges, from now on they're just going to take turns and just talk it out. Duh. That's what you should have done in the first place to begin with. They decided to talk what's for dinner, and they haven't much of a decision. But instead, Rita and Lynn said that they already had dinner planned of having goulash because they had a couple of friends of their own.
Oh, Christ.
Here we go again.
So the episode Friendzy was awesome. Just excellent. I loved it all. The story, the characters, oh my gosh, the characters were more interesting in the story. You can't really say no to this episode, especially with all the characters you encounter. I mean, there's a bunch of characters here you can actually really love, especially when they were just minor characters who we saw in Season 1 and Season 2, and partly in Season 3. You could just be like, look, there's Liam, look, there's Whitney, there's Becky, Chaz, Dana, Sam, Giggles, Haiku, Margot, Roxanne, Darcy. Oh my gosh, they're all there. In fact, I loved all these characters in this episode, especially when you get to see them again. And like I said, why hate it when it's got a great, awesome cast of characters, kid characters, teen characters? After seeing this episode on television, I decided, oh my God, I gotta watch this episode again on YouTube. I had to watch it on website over again and again. It was that damn good. In fact, freaking godlike good. And funny enough that we never know Lana's friends, because they barely have names. We barely got to know them. I mean, we did see them a few times, but their names are never mentioned. And funny enough, I should probably point this out too. Rita said that there were like 65 kids leaving the house. However, there were actually 86 kids leaving. Yeah, you heard me, 86 kids. Lori had 6 friends over, Lenny had 5 friends over, Luna had 10, Luann had 11, Lynn had 3, Lincoln had 15, Lucy had 9, Lana had 12, Lisa had 7, and Lola had 8 friends. Adding all this up would be the amount of 86. And if I did have to add Lincoln and his 9 sisters in this, that would be the total amount of 95 kids. Hear me? 95. And if Lily was actually there, it'd be 96. And I can't believe this, I'm actually giving the episode Friendzy. Everybody ready? I give the episode Friendzy 10 out of 10 stars. The first Loud House episode I've ever reviewed and looked back ever to get a 10 out of 10 stars. The episode was just that god-freaking good. I mean, why bother hating it? You got an amazing cast of kids and teen characters all together in this one. Especially for those of you who enjoy so much the 11 main kid characters, you would possibly enjoy the minor characters who actually make it in this one, who you saw in the previous episodes. Whether you like Sam, Becky, Dana, Whitney, Carol Payne Gray, Margot, Giggles, or Haiku, or maybe Darcy, then you would love to actually add this episode to your number 1 on the list. In fact, you could possibly enjoy this episode more often than any other episode. Now, that's not saying screw all the other episodes because this one is the best. I'm saying you can actually enjoy this episode along with the other episodes that you really like, or at least enjoy the other good episodes that you like compared to this one on the top of the cake. Thank you, Chris and Kyle, for directing this episode. And Kevin Sullivan, nicely written for this episode. You've made us all smile today. But I know it was kind of stupid for the sisters to come up with a plan to use against Lincoln. It was very selfish of them. But only the sisters eventually began to turn against each other instead in the end. But they all learned their lesson of not inviting their friends over for petty reasons. But at least they got along very well at the end, and they all decided to take turns once in a while. And that was even way better. But still, seeing all those kids around in that house, it made me jump up and say, look, there's Sam, look, there's Darcy, look, there's Haiku, look, there's Giggles, yada, yada, yada. I just can't get enough of seeing these characters once more again. And I can almost have at least about 8 of my friends over. And I believe some other time, sooner or later, I might be able to do this one day. I am the Loud House Critic, and
Cramped inside this tiny space may sound